So in this video, we're going to talk about the 6 trigonometric functions. And as we start, we'll go ahead and start with the definitions of each. So I'm going to construct an angle in the xy plane. So this will be our angle theta. The point at the end here, we're going to call xy. And from xy, I'll go ahead and I'll drop down a perpendicular. So we've got a triangle with a right angle there in the corner. Based upon how we constructed this, this would be our x, this would be our y, and we generally refer to the hypotenuse as r. So we've got a right triangle, we've got an angle theta, we've got sides x, y, and hypotenuse r. The definition for sine of theta is going to be the ratio of y over r. The definition for cosine of theta would be x over r. Once you know these two, all of the other ones kind of follow along. The next one I'll mention would be cosecant of theta. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So sine being y over r means cosecant would be r over y. And as I mentioned, it's the reciprocal of sine, so it's sometimes helpful to view cosecant as 1 over sine. Secant would be our next one, which is the reciprocal of cosine. The reciprocal of cosine then would be r over x, and similarly we could view it as 1 over cosine. The other two, we would have a tangent of theta and a cotangent of theta. Tangent of theta is going to be the ratio of y over x, and cotangent would be the reciprocal of that, so x over y. Now, again, being the reciprocal, we could view cotangent as 1 over tangent, but I think a far more beneficial relationship would be to look very carefully into the fact that tangent of theta is the same thing as sine of theta over cosine of theta. Now, if that's difficult for you to see, then we can slow it up a little bit and show you in terms of the ratios. We know sine is y over r. We know cosine is x over r. Well, if we simplify that, this does in fact simplify to y over x, which was our tangent function. So tangent of theta equaling sine over cosine is a pretty useful way of viewing it. And so the next thing we'll discuss would be the unit circle. The unit circle is a circle centered at 0, 0 with a radius of 1. So a circle centered at 0, 0 with a radius of 1 would be the unit circle. I'll go ahead and draw the unit circle on the screen. And in that unit circle, I'll go ahead and put an angle. So maybe we'll say angle theta looks something like that. Now, on that point on the unit circle, this is an xy ordered pair since we're in the xy plane. But on the unit circle, remember, the radius is 1. Just a few minutes ago, we said that cosine of theta equaled x over r. Well, if r is equal to 1, then x equals cosine of theta. So, as an ordered pair, we can view any x coordinate on the unit circle as cosine of theta. Similarly, sine of theta just a moment ago was defined as y over r. But if r is 1, then y equals sine of theta. So the y coordinate of any point on the unit circle is equal to sine of theta. Now, this is extremely helpful for 4 very specific points on the unit circle. So let me throw the first example up here and show you what I mean. The first example, we have sine of pi over 2. Well, pi over 2 is right here. So that angle is our pi over 2. And on the unit circle, this point is the point 0, 1. Sine is equal to y. So the y coordinate of this ordered pair is sine of pi over 2. So sine of pi over 2 in this case equals 1. The next example would be cosine of negative pi. So for negative pi would put us over here, and we move this direction, but it still puts us right over here. The ordered pair at this point would be negative 1, 0. Cosine is the x-coordinate of a point on the unit circle. So when we're at negative pi, cosine of negative pi would equal negative 1. All right, so I went ahead and I redrew the unit circle so it didn't have so many marks on it. And so we'll move forward with secant of 3 pi over 2. Now, just a moment ago, remember, secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So this is the same thing as 1 over cosine of 3 pi over 2. 3 pi over 2 puts us on the unit circle at this point here. We know cosine is the x-coordinate. So really what we're looking at is 1 over 0. Well, you can't divide by 0, so 1 over 0 being undefined means that secant of 3 pi over 2 is undefined. Now for tangent of 0. 0 degrees puts us right here on the unit circle. We know that tangent is sine over cosine, so sine of 0 over cosine of 0. On the unit circle, sine is the y-coordinate. So the y-coordinate of this point right here is what we're looking at. The y-coordinate is 0. The x-coordinate is 1. So sine over cosine. And 0 over 1 equals 0. Therefore, tangent of 0 equals 0.